Hello, and welcome to my haunted school, students. Whoa! How do you like my mask? I'm hoping to jump scare my students with this when they stop by the classroom later on for some trick-or-treating. Just a small jump scare, of course, but to me I think getting candy for free is ridiculous. You need to earn it. But I can't really teach this Halloween special very well with this on, so let's not waste any more time and move on to the subject for this mini kaiju bio before the kids arrive. Today we're doing something a little different, and covering a kaiju who never actually appeared in any shows or movies, but almost did, namely the scrapped monster Ghost Godzilla from the film that would go on to become Godzilla vs. Destoroyah. He would have been the ghost of the very first iteration of Godzilla that was destroyed in 1954 by Dr. Serizawa's oxygen destroyer, who would have returned looking for revenge. Let's check out his story. Guinness World Records refers to the Godzilla series as the longest continuously running film franchise of all time, with 33 different films so far as well as several American spin-offs. That number is quite massive, but what may surprise you is that the number of unreleased Godzilla movies actually surpasses that number. There have been so many proposed Godzilla films that were dropped or reworked into other entries in the franchise, with plots as wacky as humans battling Godzilla from inside his body as he fights Mechanicong from King Kong Escapes, or a whole planet of Godzillas being discovered after the main one dies on Earth from diabetes. One of the most interesting, however, in my opinion, is Godzilla vs. Godzilla, one of the early titles for Godzilla vs. Destoroyah. Toho wanted to put out one last film before they let TriStar take over the reins beginning in 1998. Yikes, you can't get much spookier than this guy. So they began planning a finale to their Heisei Godzilla series with the creepy theme of Godzilla Dies. And wow, did they go through a bunch of proposals for this final movie. The first known idea involved bringing back the kaiju Varan as the ultimate foe of the series. But before too long, that idea was thrown out, and Toho moved on to a new movie proposal with the title Godzilla vs. Godzilla, which had plot points that harkened back to the first film where it all began, bringing everything full circle. The first version of this idea saw Godzilla's child, Godzilla Jr., going back in time to 1954 to battle the original Godzilla. I wonder if it would have tied into the time travel shown in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. But the next few renditions of the 7th Heisei Godzilla movie are the ones we're especially interested in. Also called Godzilla vs. Godzilla, and later Godzilla vs. Ghost Godzilla, all of these drafts featured the spirit of the original Godzilla reappearing and wreaking havoc. Shogo Tomiyama seems responsible for the original idea, which went something like this, according to the website Toho Kingdom. Back in 1954, when Dr. Serizawa eliminated the original Godzilla with the horrifyingly powerful oxygen destroyer, though the creature's body was eliminated, his life energy remained present at the bottom of the ocean. Over time, this evil and ferocious consciousness gradually grew in power until it emerged in the modern day looking for revenge against mankind. It ended up merging with the young son of the King of the Monsters, possessing the poor kaiju and causing his appearance to change to that of his relative from the 50s, and rapidly grow to adult size, which tore his skin. This Ghost Godzilla would go on to do battle with his modern-day counterpart. Tomiyama's proposal would actually inspire several other movie drafts, such as one put together by writer Kazuki Omori, which we'll look at more closely in a few minutes, and another by artist Shinji Nishikawa, who drew this picture of Ghost Godzilla merged with Little Godzilla that we just looked at a second ago. Nishikawa wanted Ghost Godzilla to possess someone other than Godzilla's child, with one suggestion being a brand new Heisei iteration of Anguirus, and another being a kaiju that had traits both of Anguirus and of Baragon called Baraguirus. Omori's draft, on the other hand, kept Little Godzilla as the victim, but also had Ghost Godzilla taking on several different forms by himself, namely Aurora Godzilla, who could stand on the sea and cause ships to disappear, and the translucent Crystal Godzilla, his final form, which battled Godzilla Jr. in the climax. Sources say Omori's draft was passed up because the special effects would have been too difficult to pull off. We'll take a closer look at this draft momentarily, but there's yet another draft to talk about first, namely one submitted by Minoru Yoshida called Godzilla vs. Chaos, which would have thrown a new kaiju called Chaos into the mix, who would have battled the Godzilla family for control over Ghost Godzilla's energy. Ultimately, all ideas featuring Ghost Godzilla were eventually discarded, because director Takao Okawara apparently thought it wasn't a good idea to have Godzilla battle another doppelganger of himself after just having fought Space Godzilla and Mechagodzilla, and I can see the wisdom in that decision. However, the idea to make the death of the original Godzilla at the hands of the oxygen destroyer integral to the plot lingered, and made it into the completed Godzilla vs. Destoroyah, albeit with much less emphasis. I also can't help but wonder if the GMK Godzilla was inspired by Ghost Godzilla. Ghost Godzilla was given one last chance when he was considered to appear in a movie that would have released close to 1999 called Biogodzilla, which would have had him ironically teaming up with Godzilla Jr. against a different foe. But that of course also fell through. And since then, Ghost Godzilla has remained what he's always been. Dead. But not quite completely, because interestingly enough, Funko Incorporated has released 2 varieties of Ghost Godzilla figures. Or at least regular Godzilla figures colored to look like Ghost Godzilla. Both versions seem to have been some kind of exclusive, so they are extremely rare and valuable. Consider yourself lucky if you own either of them. Let's finish our discussion of this spooky kaiju by looking at what could have been his in-universe history if Kazuki Omori's draft had been accepted. One day, several enormous bones were discovered during the construction of an underwater tunnel and transported to a science institute in Tokyo. They turned out to be the bones of the original Godzilla, whose life energy was still floating around in the ocean and who wasn't really a fan of his skeletal structure getting taken away. So, the invisible kaiju began throwing temper tantrums and attacked Tokyo for 3 straight nights, disrupting the peace to say the least. Eventually, people caught on that the bones were probably the problem, so they removed them from Tokyo and left them on an island, and the revengeful attacks from the Phantom Menace stopped. But then, eventually, near this island, the mysterious Aurora Godzilla appeared, standing on the water and causing ships to disappear. It was decided that the best way to get rid of this weird Aurora-colored Godzilla nuisance was to have little Godzilla fight it, so they transferred the young kaiju to the island by ship. But the fight just resulted in the young monster being taken over by the Ghost Kaiju, who used this new body to cause even more destruction like in the good old days. The modern Godzilla wouldn't stand for it though, and fought his haunted son, nearly killing him and causing Ghost Godzilla to leave. Soon, however, the ghost returned as Crystal Godzilla, after the death of Heisei Godzilla by a new version of the Oxygen Destroyer made by examining the original Gojira's bones. Crystal Godzilla attacked a harbor with his heat ray and seemed unstoppable, but a revived little Godzilla eventually took him down, shattering the glass-like ghost and finally destroying the menace. And that ends the spooky tale that could have been. Thanks for tuning in tonight, students. Please like, subscribe, comment, check out all the Toku toys in my eBay store by clicking the link in the description, and follow me on Twitter. You all know the drills. I'm going to be pulling a Ghost Godzilla and disappearing for a little while to work on the history of Red King, so I think you'll definitely want to subscribe so you don't miss that. Also, everything in my eBay store is 10% off for the next 15 days, so now is the perfect time to get someone a Tokusatsu Christmas present that was owned by yours truly, since Christmas is just around the corner. Oh, I think the kids are here for trick-or-treating. Wait, where'd I leave my mask?
Happy Halloween!
No, wait, I'm not ready. Whatever. Hi, kids, happy... Ah! Ah! It's... Ah!
Hee candy retrieved. Mission accomplished.
Good work, pal.
Are they gone?